Hi, I'm Mark Szorady. I'm a cartoonist. I draw the comic strip George, which you can read right over here at my blog, georgetoon.com/blog. And if you visited my website over the last week, you also saw a video that I did regarding Linux and PCLinuxOS, the specific Linux distribution that I run. And this is another video in a series of Linux videos introducing the new user to Linux and how to get it, how to install it, and how to learn how to run it. So let me get out of the way and we'll get right down to it. As you recall from the first video, if you saw it, I recommended that you go to this site here called Distrowatchcom. This is where you can get any Linux distribution under the sun. If you go over here to the right-hand side of the page, you can see them listed here in popularity, order of popularity. And the one that I use specifically is PCLinuxOS. Clicking on that link takes you to their page inside DistroWatch. And again, there are links to where you can acquire the PCLinuxOS operating system from their website. So let's go right to their website, right here on their page. And I recommend that you get the KDE desktop. This is the most feature-rich distribution of Linux. It's a desktop environment that's very Windows-like. Even though you're moving away from Windows, you still want something that's a little familiar. It has a lot of great features. It's very stable. It is customizable. You can customize it in a million ways and really make it to suit your needs. I think it's a very good operating system. Desktop environment to start with. You're going to need probably at least 2 gigabytes of RAM to really run it effectively. So if you don't have 2 gigabytes of RAM, then you should go with a more lightweight desktop environment such as LXDE or XFCE or some of the others. And in future videos I'll be talking about those as well. Now the question is, why do I run PCLinuxOS? Well, it's because of their forum right here, the PCLinuxOS forums. These guys are the most helpful, the friendliest ever on the internet. They have really helped me learn Linux, and if it weren't for them, I don't think I would have stuck with it. They're very friendly. They have a very open attitude to things like stupid questions, because believe me, I had a lot of them. And if they didn't want to answer the question because it was something that they saw over and over and over again, they would point me to a direction, point me in the right direction in this forum to where there was a thread or discussion involving that same question. So what you want to do is, when you come to this forum or any other forum, obviously, is to use the search box and search that topic. And then if you don't find your answer, then ask the community. But the great thing is they're very welcoming, they're very friendly, and they'll either give you the answer or point you in the right direction where you can find the answer if it's already listed there. Really, really wonderful group of people. And the great thing about it is, once you start becoming involved in this Linux community or any Linux community, before you know it, you're helping others too, and that's what's so great. So anyhow, what you want to do is, back on this page, is download an ISO file. And you can see that they're down here. An ISO file is just a fancy term for a compressed, compacted file that's going to contain that operating system. And you'll want to burn the ISO to a CD or DVD, probably a DVD, because these are larger than 700 megabytes. And if you're running Windows, you can get instructions just by Googling. Here, right here on the Microsoft website, this explanation applies to Windows 7, and they tell you how you can burn an ISO file to a DVD. And if you have third-party software on your system, I'm sure there's an option there that will allow you to burn an ISO. It's probably one of the selections there. Not very hard at all. Just put the disk in, run the program, and then it will uncompact or uncompress the ISO file and lay it onto the disk. Don't copy it to the disk, because that's not going to decompress it and lay it onto the disk. You want to actually burn the ISO file to the disk. Okay, so after you do that, let me come back up here. You're going to have a disk like this, and I've labeled mine PCLinuxOS 32-bit. So you want to take this and you'll put it into your disk drive on your computer system and then reboot. And that will start the whole process then. So we're going to do that right now. So here is a program called VirtualBox. And this program is actually mimicking the actual disk, that's live CD, that I would have in here in my computer. Now you can see here you have different selections on the menu. Once that live CD is read by your disk drive, what's happening now is your Windows operating system, the operating system that you have on your computer, is not being used. Everything is coming off of this live CD. That's what's so beautiful about it. You put this live CD in, you run it, and it actually decompresses the operating system, loads it into your computer memory, and actually runs it from the disk. So it's going to be a little slower in speed, but you'll get to test your hardware and your software, your video card, your audio card, those kinds of things, to see if they're going to run with Linux. And if you choose PCLinuxOS, chances are good, 98%, 99% of the time, everything on your system is going to run. So let's go ahead and run the live CD. All right, and we're going to go through the load process. Now, because this is going to take a little while here, I might be editing this video for time, so we're not just sitting here waiting for things to happen. But if there is opportunity during something like this, a loading procedure where I have to explain something to you, I'll go ahead and take that opportunity to do so. Right now we're booting the system, and again, it's decompressing from the disk, being loaded into the memory of your system, not touching your Windows operating system at all. And we're just going to wait for it to come up. Okay, so here we are. I did a quick edit, and we are now up and running, getting ready to go forward with running the live CD on our computer. Here you'll select your keyboard, and if you're in the United States of America, it's already set to the default, and you would click Next. And here we are loading the KDE desktop environment, actually loading PCLinuxOS. This is the 32-bit version that I'm running right now. If you have a computer with a 64-bit processor, I highly recommend getting the 64-bit version of PCLinuxOS. It is incredibly fast, and it's a wonderful computing experience. If you don't, if you have a 32-bit operating system, then this is the one to go with. Okay, so we're almost loaded up here. All the components are loading in the background. And there's our toolbar that's come up. I got a little video distortion here. That's just because of, well, I'm recording video and audio and my desktop at the same time, so there are some, plus running VirtualBox and running the operating system, so there's some things going on here. So we are back up. And that's just a information icon telling me that there is a CD in my drive, which is in fact the live CD. Okay, so here we are on the desktop. Now we already have on the start button, there are already programs that are installed with this operating system, and there are many more programs that you can get as well. Now I've clicked on that. I'm just waiting for it to come up because again there is a bit of a lag, and you will see a little bit of a lag when you run the live CD as well. Okay, so we're going to, okay, there it is. Okay, now it's finally caught up a little bit. So you can see that there are a lot of programs here. Let's see, graphics programs and office programs and video program. Here, let's get to the video programs, sound programs, a lot of audio players. Internet programs, web browsers, and email and network configurators, a lot of different things. Okay, let's get out of there. Now, let's say you've tested this, you've run the software, you've run your a video, you've run an MP3 file, and everything works. Now you want to install it to your operating system. Well, right over here, this is where you're going to install it, just by clicking on that. Most Linux distributions, or actually all Linux distributions from what I can see right now, all have this install icon on the desktop. All you have to do is click on this, and then it automatically runs and installs Linux to your hard drive. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to right click on that, and I'm going to say open and let it go through the process. Now actually what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be installing this right into this software program called VirtualBox, as if it were the hard drive on my computer system. But you'll be seeing the same thing when you run the live C and you want to install this to your computer's hard drive. So this wizard pops up, and it is completely automatic. It does everything for you. So let's hit the next button. All right, now right here we have use free space or custom disk partitioning. Now, if you want to get rid of Windows, completely wipe Windows off of this system and never see it again, you'll go with this one right here that's just set to the default. If for some reason you want to keep Windows and you know a little bit about custom disk partitioning and you want to create a dual boot system whereby you can boot either Windows or Linux, well then you would go with custom disk partitioning here. Now, my advice has always been find an old spare system that you're not using and wipe the drive completely of Windows and install Linux in its place. It's a lot easier. You'll be running your Windows system or your Mac system or whatever you have for your day-to-day computing needs, and you'll have the spare Linux system to learn at your own pace as you go. And I guarantee you, the more you use Linux, pretty soon it's going to become your main system, and you'll actually wean yourself away from Windows. So we're going to go ahead and do this install right here to the free space and wipe the hard drive or whatever's there and install Linux. Again, if you have Windows on here, back up any files, any photos, any music files, any videos, any documents that you have, and save them to an external hard drive. Back them up, because once you do this, everything is gone. So let's go ahead and do that now. So it's going to compute the total size of the hard drive that we're going to need. And it's partition selected to be formatted. All the data will be wiped. Again, everything on this hard drive is going to be bye-bye, goodbye, gone. You're never going to see it again. So if there's something on there that you need to save, before you do any of this, get on that system, back it up, and save it. So now we're going to click Next. And it's going to go ahead and format this partition, and it's going to mount it, and it's going to install PCLinuxOS to our computer. And again, if this process takes a little too long, I'll edit the video so we compress time a little bit. Okay, so I've done a little editing in camera here. We're not in camera, actually in an editing program. And we're almost done here with our installation. And just as soon as this is done installing to the hard drive, a couple of other steps involved in getting up and running. And they're very easy, not at all difficult. We'll just wait for this to finish. Let me get out of the way. And we can continue. And we'll just wait. Almost done with the installation. And that looks like it's about it. Maybe it's got maybe a little more left to go. Okay, we have to wait. And again, this is all automatic. This is something you just click a couple of buttons and you can install Linux to any computer hard drive and you'll be up and running. And the whole process takes anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes maximum in installing it onto a computer hard drive. All right, so now we have to do a few things here in order to get this up and running the first time. You'll want to keep the grub with graphical menu. You'll want to let it go to the default boot device. You'll probably want a 10-second delay before it automatically boots. Don't worry about a security password for grub. I don't know why that's there. Just don't worry about this. Click next. All right, and this is what's going to be on our menu. If you did a dual boot with Windows, you would see Windows listed here. And then you can order, by using these up and down arrows here, you could, vary the order of these 2 things or 3 things or whatever you have there. But this is pretty much what we have here, which is Linux and fail-safe mode. And just click here on Finish, and you'll be finished. Bootloader installation in progress. This could take a minute or 2, so that's that bootloader that we were talking about just before. Grub. It's going to be installing that, configuring that to the hard drive. That's the first screen you'll see after you start your system, which will give you the opportunity to boot into Linux. And we're just waiting for this to go to the next step to give us the all clear, where we can do a reboot of the system and remove the live CD. All right, please click Finish, restart your computer, and remove the live CD when prompted. That's what you'll be doing. So we're going to go over here and click Finish. And now all we have to do is leave this whole thing, and we're going to shut down. Actually, we'll shut down. You'll want to restart, but I'm going to shut down and start this process all over again. So here we're shutting down the live CD. We would be waiting for it to be prompt to remove the CD from our drive, and then hitting the return button and rebooting the system. Okay, I've rebooted my system in Virtual Machine, and this is the screen you're going to see after you reboot your system, after you've taken out your live CD. The screen you saw previously was known as Grub, and the top highlighted entry was PCLinuxOS, which is what we're booting into, and the system is booting up. And we have to do a little bit of housekeeping in order to get the system up and running, and I'm going to show you how that takes place. And it's all very easy and very straightforward. So we're just waiting for it to boot up. Okay, so we're going to set our time zone. Since I'm in Ohio, I am going to choose New York City right here. And I'm going to set the automatic time synchronization, and I'm going to choose a North American server here in the United States, and I'm going to click Next. The next thing it's going to do is it's going to ask me for my root password. This is the administration password. This is the password that only the administrator should have. When you're running Linux, you run as a user, but if you want to make changes to the entire system, you do that at the administration level, also known as root. So you can have a number of users on Linux. Each user would have their own individual account, and if they do something wrong, they could mess up their account, but it'll leave all the other accounts, all the other user accounts, untouched, provided they're not doing anything at the root level, administration level. So if you're a mom and dad and you want to install Linux on a system and let the kids use it, you can give each of your children a user account. Just don't give them the root password. They can go ahead and do whatever they need to do in their user account. And when you need to update the system or to install new software, you, the administrator, can do that for them at the root level. And that way, your documents and your work is always secure and separate from what they're doing. So we're going to set a root password here, And we're going to call this, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for simplicity's sake. We're going to put it in again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to click Next. Now I'm going to create a user account. This would be my account or your account if you're doing this for the first time. You put in your real name. We'll call this guy Joe User. It'll give me the login name of Joe User, and then we'll give it a password for that user account. And we'll use ABCD and then ABCD. Then up here, you can click on this guy and change your icon. It has a number of different images you can use for an icon. We'll use that little puppy there. And then we click Next. And that's it. And there's our login screen to get into Linux, PCLinuxOS in the KDE desktop. And you can see here we have two user accounts, or two accounts. We have the Joe User account that we just created. We have the administration account. And you can add more users to this, and this list will get longer. If you have 5 users, you'll have the 5 users plus the administration account. So let's log into our user account. And of course our password was ABCD, all lowercase. We'll hit enter. And here is the KDE desktop environment loading up. And this is the 32-bit version of PCLinuxOS. This is what you would see if you were running the 32-bit version. The 64-bit version has a different splash page. Now, the first thing that's going to come up is information on how to update your system. PCLinuxOS is a rolling distribution, so you periodically update it with the latest and greatest software, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And it should be coming up any moment now. There it is. And of course it says PC Linux. Let's get rid of this migration tool here. PC Linux is a rolling release providing security and frequent software updates through its repositories. Please do a full update of your system at least twice a month by launching, and then it goes into some detail here as to how to go about doing that. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to click OK, and we'll get this other page that comes up. This is a PCLinuxOS help knowledge base page. This is very good. If you forget any of this, just look at this page, scroll through it. It'll tell you all about updating your system, how to go about doing it, and it's a very good resource. And it's the first thing that comes up when you install PCLinuxOS. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's update the system. Down here on the toolbar, this little guy right here is Synaptic Package Manager. This is the software tool that you'll use to update your system. Now, clicking on that, it's asking me if I want to run with root privileges at the administration level. I want to do that. I need to do that. Otherwise, I can't update software on the system. So I'm going to have to put in that password. This is something you do as the administrator of the system. So if you have a lot of different users on this, one person in the family is going to be the administrator. This would be their job. If you're the only user, you'll be both a user and an administrator. So our password for root was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we'll hit OK. And Synaptic Package Manager will come up. Now what's happening here, this is going to list all the software that's available for PCLinuxOS. Now, PCLinuxOS and all Linux distributions come with a lot of software already pre-installed. This is where you can get additional software. This is where you also update your system and all the software that's on it. First step you want to do in order to update your system is to come over here and hit this reload button. When you hit reload, the repositories will be checked for new, removed, or upgraded software packages. It's syncing with the repository that's online, up on the web, in the cloud, so to speak. And the two systems are talking to one another, getting in sync. So now we are just about done syncing up. You can see the progress bar down here. Okay, now to see everything that needs to be upgraded, what I do is I come down to this button, Custom. I click on that, and that gives me a whole new list. And just by clicking here, Upgradeable Upstream, gives me all the packages here that have to be upgraded. Now, the reason why there are so many packages here is because this is a December 2013 version of PC Linux that I've installed on the system. Had I gotten the January 2014 version, there wouldn't be as many packages here. There would be some, but there wouldn't be as many. Regardless, PCLinuxOS, as you heard, is a rolling distribution. So whenever you update it or upgrade it, you have the latest and greatest version. There's no need to constantly go up and get another ISO file and install the whole thing. You're just upgrading as we go, which is great, which is another reason why I love it. Rolling distribution. So any Linux distribution that you decide to install, find out if it's a rolling distribution, because it makes life a whole lot easier. Okay, so now to upgrade your system, you come over here and you click Mark All Upgrades. Now it's going to ask you, do you want to make these required additional changes? All these software here. And you would say Mark. Now you're marked everything. Now you hit this button here called Apply. So we apply that. It's going to ask you once more, do you want to apply all those changes? And we want to do it, obviously. And I also like to verify the package signatures and make sure that everything that's coming down from the repository has been verified by all the developers, all the people who've contributed. And then I hit Apply. And that's it. Now all the packages, 425 of them, are being downloaded right now to my system. They're being parked in a temporary location. And then after everything is downloaded, then it will go ahead and install itself automatically. My system will be up to date. Now, one other point in this whole process, and you'll learn about this too, if for any reason your internet connection breaks, or there is a pause in the system, or something happens where not all the packages are getting downloaded, and you get a message that says, I can't retrieve all the packages, do you want to continue? You say no. You always answer no to that, because you want to pull down everything that's up there. Everything that's up there you want to bring down and install all at the same time. You want to have everything on the same page. You never want to install half of what's up there or a quarter of what's up there. Everything that's up there gets downloaded and installed at the same time. You never want to do it in piecemeal, because then you could run into some problems. So that's a rarity, but just a little helpful tip. Well, anyhow, this is going to take another 8 minutes or so, and that's about all we have to discuss here right now with installing and upgrading PCLinuxOS. So I will let you go. I look forward to doing more videos for you. Next time around, I'll show you the Start menu and all the programs that are available there. We'll also talk about customizing the PCLinuxOS system and what KDE can do. It's very, very powerful, and it's a lot of fun. So until then, thanks very much for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to read my comic strip on georgetoon.com/blog, the George Toon blog. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it, and I'll see you soon.